Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness, and it is time for part 2 of the Monday Q&A. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Alright, let's get into these questions. First question. When you are intermittent fasting, what's the best way to break that routine and diet if you want to go on a clean bulk without putting on too much body fat? Well, first of all, there's nothing special about intermittent fasting for this. I intermittent fast year round. I'm on 5,000 calories a day bulking and I still intermittent fast. So just like with any other eating pattern, all you do is slowly increase calories until you're sure you've sped your metabolism up from your dieting and you go on a very small caloric surplus, just enough to where you minimize fat gain on a clean bulk. It doesn't matter that you're doing intermittent fasting. It's completely irrelevant to how you transition to that. So there's nothing special you would do there that's any different. And watch my videos on reverse dieting, dieting breaks, all of that if you want to know how to make those sort of transitions. I've got multiple videos up on that topic. All right, next question. Is the standing overhead press superior to the seated overhead press for shoulder development, or are there other reasons it is used in your novice program? All right, first of all, no. If you want to get technical, the seated shoulder press might be slightly better for shoulder development than the standing press. However, the standing press is a superior compound movement, meaning it brings more muscles into the equation. It brings more support muscles in. It stimulates more overall growth and development. And that is why it is in my novice program. Because the fastest way to get big as quickly as possible is to do superior compound movements, not to step back and go, wait, which movement will give me 1 to 2% more recruitment of the primary movers? You need to look at what movements are going to give you the most overall development if you want to get big quickly. And when you want to bring up weak points in your physique, that's when you go through and start trying to find movements or isolation movements and things that give you a 1 to 2% edge in that target muscle when you're trying to bring up the weak points. Because what you will find with muscles that you are genetically prone to growing well, if they're not a weak point, you don't ever have to do efficient movements for them. Like me, for example, as I've discussed before, I don't have to do anything special for my chest. I can bench press and I can military press, and that's all I do, and yet my chest overshadows the rest of my physique. And it's because that muscle grows for me genetically easy. I don't have to find efficient movements for it. But I have to for my biceps, which are a genetic weak point for me. So that's how you need to approach it. For overall size, don't worry about which lifts are the most efficient for a muscle group. You need to look at which lifts are just going to put the most meat on your whole body. And your refinement work is where you start looking at those things. If your goals are to get as big as quickly as possible, and that is what my novice program is designed to do, is to put as much muscle as humanly possible on a novice lifter while keeping them reasonably balanced. Okay, next question. Do the pros really have better genetics, or do they use more and better drugs? Depends on the pro. Lots of guys become IFBB pros who don't have particularly great genetics. They might have slightly above average genetics, but they don't have amazing genetics. But when you start getting to anyone who places top 10 at the Olympia, yeah, they're going to be the genetic elite. Now, on top of that fact, obviously they use drugs that other people don't use. They use drugs that the top powerlifters don't use. They use drugs that the Olympic gold medalists don't use. Bodybuilding will always be about using the drugs that will get you as big as humanly possible, even if those drugs aren't used in any other sport. And they use stuff that no other sport uses, and they use, in my experience, it's not uncommon for a top power lifter to only use a fifth of the steroids that a top bodybuilder uses in their actual doses and their preferences. So it's a combination of the two. But yeah, genetically they are superior. You can't expect someone who's genetically average to go and use the drugs that Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler use and obtain their level of size, even with the same drugs. Their genetics absolutely do matter as well. So it's the combination. Okay, next question. How to improve connective tissue strength for natural bodybuilders and powerlifters? All right, that's a good question because I do cover that sometimes for the enhanced guys, With natural guys, a lot of the same rules still apply in the sense that it is your training program that strengthens connective tissue. Doing lifts correctly, using a proper training protocol with proper spacing of your workouts, with properly scheduled deloads, with a proper progression pattern will stimulate connective tissue growth and will allow for proper connective tissue healing. If your connective tissue isn't getting strong enough quickly enough, there's something wrong most of the time with your actual training program. You need to fire whoever wrote your program and go get something written by an expert. Someone with a graduate degree or a PhD in exercise science who's worked with real athletes. Because that's probably your problem. A proper program takes that into consideration. Now, on top of that, the other thing you can do is do things like heavy partials, but you need to do them in a way that doesn't jar the joints. Meaning if you're going to do partials on the squat to build connective tissue, you need to focus on pressing off the pins and setting down gently. You don't ever want to do pin presses and things that jar the joints. Stick to things like board presses for bench press, etc. And the other things to look at is just your general technique and form. Oftentimes connective tissue damage is a result of using improper techniques. And that's a lot of the things I cover when discussing skull crushers and tendonitis that I've done in videos, or why you get shoulder injuries on bench pressing, or why you get knee injuries squatting. I've covered this stuff in different videos, and it's if your technique is correct and your programming is correct, your connective tissue should get stronger. You shouldn't need to do anything else outside of proper lifting to develop connective tissue of steel. All right, last question. Would you recommend blood flow restriction training to beginner, intermediate, or advanced lifters? A lot of guys keep asking me on this stuff. They want to know about occlusion training. While I think it's theoretically interesting, this falls back to the thing that I always see of everybody trying to find a way to avoid lifting heavy ass weight and still reach their goals. And I think occlusion training is something that goes to the point to where people are willing to take a risk, albeit a small one, but they're willing to take a risk of tissue damage by restricting blood flow with tourniquets just to avoid lifting heavy weights to try to get the same results. Now, I am all for doing something that's a superior method. If you can show me that it will give you 10% more development than using the best training protocols with a heavier weight, I'll get on board. But if we're talking about taking a small risk of connective tissue damage and having to strap tourniquets and stuff around your limbs to try to get equal results, I'm going to say stop being a fucking pussy and go lift some heavy weight instead of playing with stuff like this. To me, I don't even understand why people would want to do that. I love lifting heavy weight. I started lifting because I love lifting heavy weight. That is what got me into it. And so to me, it's the complete antithesis of the entire purpose of why I train. And it's the antithesis of my own personal philosophy. So to me, I don't really understand why people would go to that extreme just to avoid lifting heavy weight, to try to get the same results as lifting a heavy weight. So I don't really understand why people do it, to be honest. I just don't get it. And people will argue things like, well, less strain on connective tissue. We'll go back to the last question. If your program is written correctly, your connective tissue improves from the strain. It doesn't degenerate. You should have stronger connective tissue after 10 years of lifting, not weaker. So I don't buy that argument. And I know a lot of people seem to, the occlusion training is becoming trendy in certain circles. It's not for me. I don't see myself messing with it or trying it unless there is conclusive proof that it is a superior method. All right, guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.